my name is Kat, and today I will be doing a review on the Mortal Instruments City of Bones movie. With the non-spoilery review. By the way, if my lighting is all shifty during this, it's because the sun is like setting and also there are clouds. Alright, so first things first, movie overall, I really enjoyed it. It did have some flaws, of course, it wasn't perfect, but I feel like 80% of the movie was just right on awesomeness, amazingness, but then there was that other 20% that was kind of cringeworthy bad. But let's start with the awesomeness. The overall acting was really great, and I feel like all of the characters, with the exception of two, were very much reflective and captured their book counterparts. Lily Collins as Clary and Robert Sheehan as Simon were the best performances in my opinion. Their performances made me end up liking movie Clary and movie Simon more than book Clary and book Simon. Though I did still prefer book Jace to movie Jace, I found myself kind of getting on board with Jamie Campbell Bower as Jace. He isn't quite my version of Jace, but I think he did a lot better than many people expected him to. As for the two character portrayals that I couldn't really get on board with, they were two characters that I was most looking forward to seeing, so that makes it like extra disappointing. First, there was Magnus Bane, who is one of my favorite characters in the book series, and the actor looked like him. He looked like Magnus, but his acting was just kind of flat. And while Magnus looked the part, but his acting was a little bit flat, I felt like Valentine did not look the part, and his acting was a little bit over the top. Valentine is supposed to be a very kind of charming and manipulative politician type guy. He's not supposed to be a shadow hunter who gave up the clave life to go sail the seven seas. Like, what was up with his pirate dreadlocks? Those still bother me. Whoever put those on his head needs to be fired and not permitted anywhere near the set of the second movie, if we get a second movie. That may or may not happen. Box office sales weren't awesome. I blame those ratchet dreads. Seriously, whose idea was that? I feel like until Valentine entered the picture, things were going really well. Like, the first 2/3 of the movie are awesome. They did change and condense the storyline throughout the movie, and in the beginning I found myself really on board with a lot of these changes. They made sense, they made the movie flow better, but I feel like once we got to the last third of the movie, things kind of started crumbling apart a little bit. I mean, the ending of City of Bones sets up for the rest of the books in the series, whereas the ending of the movie changed a lot of stuff from the ending of the book. It also gave away some spoilers for the series, so if you watched this movie and you haven't read the first 3 books in the series, you might end up spoiled, just FYI. With the way that the movie ended, I'm not really sure how it's going to come together in the future movies, if we even get future movies. Like I said, box office sales weren't great. Blame Valentine's dreads. I have 2 highlights that were like my favorite parts of the movie. The first is the humor and the dialogue. City of Bones, the book, has so many great lines of dialogue that I just loved, and I was so happy to see a lot of those lines sprinkled throughout the movie. The other highlight was just like the special effects and the scenery and the cinematography, just the visual aspect of the movie. Visually, it was just such an awesome representation of the book. Even though the story and a couple of the characters kind of get jumbled up in the adaptation from book to screen, I feel like the overall watching experience is just so cool. It really kind of outweighs that. I mean, those flaws still exist, but I left the movie just kind of blown away by the amazingness of seeing this book brought to life. Overall, I just thought it was a great movie experience, and I feel like even if I hadn't read the book, I still would have enjoyed the movie because it just had such cool settings and it was very fast-paced. Maybe a little too fast-paced for some people unfamiliar with the book, but I enjoyed it, especially since I just reread the book before seeing it. I was like, oh yeah, this is that part. Ooh, that's cool. Oh, that line is directly from the book. Awesome. So yeah, that is my non-spoilery opinion. If you liked the book, I really do encourage you to see the movie. It's not perfect, but as far as adaptations go, I'm happy with it, and I would definitely watch it again, and I would definitely go see the second movie, if they make a second movie. I hope they do. I'm part of the camp that hopes they make a second movie. Just cut Valentine's hair first, please, for the love of God. Okay, let's talk some spoilers now, because the weekend has passed and I'm sure lots of you guys have had time to see the movie, and yeah, we're gonna discuss some favorite parts. I think my favorite part of the movie was the beginning. You know, meeting Clary and her mom and Luke and Simon, but I've kind of been in love with Robert Sheehan since Misfits, so yeah, I kind of ended up Team Simon after watching this movie, and I don't know how I feel about that. I loved Simon's humor, both the lines that like were from the book and put into the movie, like when Clary's mom opens the door and she's like, Jesus! And Simon's there and he's like, nope, just me. I loved that part. I loved Simon and Clary in Pandemonium where Simon's just like, yeah, we're totally fitting in here. The scene where Jocelyn is attacked was really cool. I'm really glad that the movie went there and showed us that. I really enjoyed seeing Jocelyn kick a little bit of ass, and like when she was slamming that guy's head in the refrigerator. Pretty sure that voids the warranty. Now, I mentioned in my series discussion that one aspect that frustrated me about Clary was that she runs home when her mom calls her and tells her don't come home. And she still did this in the movie, and it was even more kind of reckless than in the book. Like, she runs into a guy on a bicycle, takes him out, gets back up, starts running again, almost gets hit by a car. Clary, you need to look both ways before you cross the street, okay? Oh my god, and then when Clary gets home and that like Rottweiler demon is there, that was really, really cool. Like these bubbles of demon guts are like merging together and reforming the demon after Clary blows it up in her house. Like, what was that? Now, the demon blowing up wasn't in the book, but I do think it was a really cool effect. I just wish that Clary would have killed the demon, because that's what happened in the book. Clary killed the demon, and that's why Izzy and Alec are like, oh, you killed a demon. But in the movie, Jace kills it. She just like lights her kitchen on fire. But yeah, I did like how they condensed the storyline, particularly around this part where after the attack, Clary goes downstairs and talks to Dorothea. You're a shadow hunter, Clary? And I actually liked that part too, that she says that, because then it kind of gives Jace a little more reason to put a rune on her. Like, you know, she said you were a shadow hunter, we're pretty sure you're a shadow hunter, so rune her up. Then Simon comes back, hooray! Even though my favorite performances were that of Clary and Simon, I actually really liked the scenes with Clary, Simon, and Jace as a trio. I thought a lot of those just had like a great energy to them. Like, I could not stop laughing over the whole they weren't cops scene. You killed 2 cops. They weren't cops. They looked like cops. They weren't cops. Then where did they get the car? I wish we could have seen more Alec, although I really did enjoy him in the scenes that he was in, even when he didn't have any lines. He has a couple moments where he's just like looking, like when Clary is first discovering the Institute library and Jace is kind of watching her. Alec is watching Jace, and I really liked that little dynamic there. And also when they're in the Hotel du Mort facing off against the vampires and they're like, oh, there's too many of them. Jace is like, have a little faith, and Alec just gives him a look like, are you kidding me? Once we get to the Institute though, that's where I kind of feel like the world building and the explanations started kind of not doing so well. The little exchange between Simon and Izzy where we learn that zombies do not exist, the Forsaken do not exist. I mean, I guess they can kind of get away with not having the Forsaken exist because they don't really explain runes in the first place. You know, up until Magnus's party, I was just in love with the movie. Like, I was so on board with everything they were doing, and then we meet Magnus and he's kind of flat and doesn't have the life that he should. And then Simon doesn't turn into a rat. Like, the vampire spiked his drink and turned it blue, and he drank it, and then the vampires jumped him and took him somewhere. Like, what did that drink do? It didn't do anything. They could have just taken him. What was the point of the blue drink? I really liked the vampire fight scene though. I thought Izzy was awesome with her whip. Like, that was just very cool. I wish we could have seen Raphael, the leader of the vampires. I mean, like, there was one vampire that looked like it might have been him, but he didn't have any lines or anything, and I feel like Raphael was one of the more interesting downworlder characters in the series, and we don't get anything from him in the movie. It's all these little changes that add up, and some of the little changes were really great and added to the story, and I enjoyed them. I liked the fact that Bach was a shadow hunter, and there's that like musical tune that alerted you to the presence of demons. I like when Clary like set her coffee down and it went into the page and she's like, Give me back my coffee! I loved that Simon drew little devil horns and like an evil mustache on Clary's picture of Jace. That was hilarious. But then here at like the 2/3 point, things just kind of started to fall apart a little bit. First, we have Hodge straight up telling Valentine, "You can lie to the children and tell them they are both yours." Spoilers! And then Jace didn't recognize Valentine. That was another part that I was just like, sense making? You are not. Jace should remember that. And the fact that Valentine's like, oh, Clary's not the only one with a block on her mind, like, what does that mean? Why does he have a block on his— what? Now, I did like Luke and the other werewolves kind of, even though I feel like the other werewolves being there wasn't really necessary. Clary goes through the portal and she meets up with Luke, and Luke gathers up all his werewolf buddies and they head on back to the Institute. Except as soon as they get there, the werewolves start getting like picked off and murdered. All of them die except for Luke. It's like this horde of werewolves like, yeah, let's go fight! And basically they really just end up giving her a ride to the Institute. There were just so many threads left hanging, like what happened to Alec and Magnus? Simon has a vampire bite on him and Clary noticed, and just no one comments on that. No one says anything. We're not talking about Simon's vampire bite. By the end of the movie, they had made so many little changes that I really had no idea what was going on, and like I couldn't even explain it back to you. And then there's the whole big twist kind of at the end where Clary keeps the actual mortal cup, and the one that Valentine has in Limbo or Portal Land or wherever he ends up is a fake. I don't really know what they're going to do with the next movie, if there is a next movie. I hope there is, because like I said, even though I have a bunch of nitpicky things to say about changes that they made, I did really enjoy this movie and I would love to see a City of Ashes one. I am pro second movie! Yeah! But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Mortal Instruments City of Bones movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did Valentine's hair drive you freaking crazy? Let me know what your favorite part and least favorite part of the movie was. But yeah, that is it. That is everything I had for this video reviewing the Mortal Instruments City of Bones movie today. So thank you very much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great night, and I'll have another video for you. Bye!